I want to welcome everyone to the Live Well Kalkaska Substance Free Coalition's Coffee with the Coalition Forum. This is an open and informal discussion about substance use disorders and related topics and concerns within Kalkaska community in Northern Michigan. And I would like everybody to introduce themselves. Samantha, you want to go first?
So I work for Catholic Human Services, and I'm part of the Kalkaska County Treatment Court team every other Tuesday.
Awesome.
I'm a recovery coach.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for being here. Renee?
Yeah, no problem.
Hi there. My name is Renee McCauley, and I'm the Community Collaborative Coordinator for Antrim and Kalkaska County.
Thanks for being
here. And Linda, you may recognize me. I'm also the staff to Representative Kofia.
All right, thanks. Tim?
Hey, everyone. I'm Tim Hudson. I'm a behavioral health consultant with University of Michigan's Michigan Opioid Collaborative. I cover the northern lower 21 counties.
Thanks for being here. Linda.
Hi, I'm Linda Solom, and I'm a prevention specialist for Up North Prevention, an initiative of Catholic Human Services. And I also worked with Renee on the Safe Kids, Safe Schools. We were part of that group for TCAP Central High School. So that was also really great to be a part of that. And I'm also part of a coalition to combat human trafficking.
Awesome. Thanks for being here. Donna?
Morning, everyone. I'm Donna Narkley, and I'm at District Health Department 10, and I coordinate a grant project called Substance Use Stigma Assessment and Response, and it covers the 10 counties of the Northwest Community Health Innovation Region.
All right, thanks for being here. And I'm Suzanne Prentice. I'm the coordinator of the Live Well Kalkaska Substance Free Coalition and prevention specialist for Kalkaska County through Catholic Human Services Up North Prevention. And next I'm going to introduce Corey Winfield. He's the executive director of 217 Recovery. Corey's going to be talking to us about the program and how it encourages individuality while fostering purpose and value to those in recovery, and how it promotes a productive and fun recovery lifestyle. Take it away, Corey.
Thank you, and it's an honor to be here with everybody today. I know a couple of you, or at least in passing, I've seen you and said hi a few times, but just a little bit about my backstory before I kind of get into 217 Recovery. A lot of people think, oh, 217 is that an area code, and it is, but it's in Illinois somewhere, and it has nothing to do with how 217 Recovery was named. I was in treatment many times. The last time I was in treatment, I was in room 217, and that was my 15th time treatment. Going to treatment so many times, you kind of get this like, oh, heard this before. Oh, heard this before. But I was trying to figure out why nothing was sticking, and I never thought this would happen to me. I had a 20-year radio career. I was moving up through the ranks with iHeartMedia, and things were going good. Moved back home after liver failure and kidney failure happened to me when I was 36. And I figured I need to get back home, be near family. And then it just was, what do I want to do? What do I need to do? Very confusing for me. I didn't want to be an alcoholic. My dad told me that those were bad people and that they beat their wives, that they kill people in accidents, and they can't keep jobs. So it was really hard for me to accept that, hey, I'm an alcoholic, and through the treatments, through the outpatient, through the mental hospitals, all the places that I visited on my tour, it was interesting, and I learned every step of the way. But this last time, it was like, okay, what am I not understanding, and why can't I have fun in recovery? I remember when I walked in the treatment center, there's this long hallway, and as I'm walking in, it hit me then that, okay, I was made to go there by the court, so I couldn't just leave early like I normally would do. And I could either go in there and be miserable, or I could go in there and learn about myself and have fun. And that was what I chose to do. And so that's why, we use the have fun in recovery. I used to talk at the treatment center here in Traverse City, the Dixon Treatment Services, on Tuesdays. I'm just too busy for it now, but it was interesting how my talks with the guys would leave them, and most of them would come up to me at the end of it and go, I've never laughed hard before in my life, like sober, like I didn't know this was possible. And so it became a thing, to have fun in recovery. And it's when people are at the bottom and they're struggling to make it, they're not using because it's fun. It's just a horrible place to be. And for me, I was using to try to well, maybe I will die this time and then I don't have to do this anymore. So to kind of find a place that's fun and you find purpose, it's amazing. And that's kind of what the 217 represents now, because in the room, we would talk, me and my two roommates, about what happened through the day and why I was mad and why this made me angry. And I would process the things. And it really started to make sense to me. When we got out of treatment, we were trying to start a podcast and we couldn't think of a name. And the guy walks downstairs and he looked at me and the other guys. He's like, oh, you 217 guys are always up to something. And so that's when I was like, oh, 217, like we could call it 217 recovery. And we did. And a couple of months into our podcast, I had a woman email me, and I don't remember even what state she lived in. And she said, hey, do you know what the angel 217 is? And I said, no. And it was very creepy, kind of eerie, but in the same time, it was kind of amazing. The things that I was working on when I was at Bear River, I was trying to find my purpose. I wanted to be more spiritual, and I wanted to figure out a way to help others, because those are the things that I figured that I needed. If I wanted anything in recovery, I would think, hey, I'm going to go be a drug counselor. And then I'd realize I don't want to be a drug counselor, So it's like, it was very hard for me to find my purpose. That's what the angel number of 217 means. It means a little bit more than that, but it's basically helping others, finding your purpose, and being more spiritual. So that was very shocking to me. So that's what it represents now, and instead of a room number. The podcast started taking off, and we started doing transportation for people. And it wasn't just like I just said it. It was a long, tedious, hard process. Doors slammed in my face, told repeatedly that I can't do that. You can't do that. You're going to need this. You're going to need that. You can't do that. And I was told that pretty much the whole time, starting 217 recovery. Oh, you can't make that into a nonprofit. You can't do that. You're going to need this. You're going to need a lawyer. You're going to need a judge. You're going to need a cop. And I'm like, I don't know those people, And they're like, you need that on your board, which you don't. So as I kind of went through this whole transportation thing, it's like, okay, people told me I can't do it before. And I got with the NMRE and say, hey, look, this is what we want to do. I actually met with them. And it was funny because Sarah was there at the time, and I'm sure everybody knows Sarah. And she thought I was going to ask for funding for our podcast. And I kind of laughed, and I was like, no, because she's like, we're not going to fund your podcast. I'm like, no, I don't want you to fund my podcast. I want you to help me drive people to and from treatment. And she's like, oh, well, that's something, that we really need that up here. And I'm like, yeah, how come nobody's doing it? And she was just like, well, I don't know. And I looked at her and said, okay, well, I'm gonna start doing it. She's like, okay, and she kind of had some really good suggestions about what to do and how to get started. So we did. And then on my way to making our company, because I was told that we needed to be a transportation company, which we're not. We're a nonprofit, and one of the ways we help people is by getting them treatment. But I was like, all right, well, the state fee is only $150. We can go ahead and pay that. And then I needed to prove that we had this insurance, and the insurance was $15,000 a year, and there's no way I could do that. We're just charging for pretty much the state rate or the federal rate or whatever for gas reimbursement. Like, we're not trying to make money off people. I was just thinking, hey, we become a nonprofit. People will give us grants. This is a service that's needed. This will be real easy. But it takes time. You got to prove yourself. I mean, if they gave money to every former addict who had a year clean, and they would probably lose a lot of money and get nothing done. So I get it. And I understand that they wanted to see it. And we did. And we figured out how to make it work. Some of the treatment centers were great to work with. They would allow us to pick up the person or drop the person off. We would then bill them, because we weren't contracted with the PIHP, so we couldn't bill the PIHP directly. We had to bill the treatment center. So then the treatment center would get our bill, send it to the PIHP, which is NMRE, and they'd get reimbursed, and then they would send us a check a month or two later, which was kind of hard, but COVID kind of made that possible for us a little bit. We used a lot of our own money. And Since then, we did probably 300 trips with that method. We got burnt out of, I'd say, $2,800. At one point, it was over 5,000. Where the treatment centers, they didn't submit the billing in time, which blows my mind. There's a lot of staffing issues at some places, and I lost your bill, and I'm like, what? Like, all you have to do is take it, submit it, you get reimbursed, you cut me a check. It's pretty easy. And for some of them, it wasn't. So, like I said, we had to pay out of pocket pretty much to take people. But I just trusted God and figured it's all going to work itself out. And last year we were, given a COVID grant that helped us with the transportation, and we were given a liquor tax grant, which allowed us to open a recovery center. We thought about calling it a community center, but just that in my mind thinks, hey, people are going to come hang out, play basketball, maybe go swimming, and our office is not big enough. Unfortunately, I wanted that. I wanted a stage where we could have bands perform. Talk to my wife, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, Corey wanted this and that." But the place we got, again, it was a godsend. Our landlord is really awesome. We didn't have really any money to kind of get things started, because it was like, hey, all right, well, you got the grant, but you got to spend it and we'll pay you back. And it was like, wait a minute, like there's a treatment center that owes us $5,000 that is not paying, like we don't have money to start that. And luckily, another act of God, somebody came through $5,000, which really started us up and kickstarted us off and really allowed us to move forward. And then, like, a month or two later, the treatment center paid half of what they owed and whatever. And so it started the ball rolling. And the treatment center across the street, which is Addiction Treatment Services, right across from their detox, which that's why I'm saying, like, that's a godsend, because we work really well with them and we love people at Addiction Treatment Services. Paula is amazing. The staff they have over there that they have there running now is just night and day from what it used to be. Nothing against Chris, but Paula has it kind of dialed in, and she has a vision and she knows what she wants. So we really love them. And yeah, like I said, them being right across the street is something that's amazing. And then they have 7 sober living homes right here in town, and we work with those guys a lot. And when I used to talk at the treatment center, I got to know some of those people. And so they start hanging out here. And in fact, we just hired a guy on part-time, just because he's hanging out here all the time. And you guys, if you're in recovery, you might have heard this, or maybe you've heard it either way, but they say if you hang around the barbershop long enough, you're going to get a haircut. And usually that's referred to, like, if you're hanging out with bad people, you're going to go out and you're going to use again. But in this case, I looked at him, I was like, hey man, you're hanging around the barbershop, you're going to get a haircut, and he kind of looked at me and I was like, yeah, man, like you're volunteering here. You went out to the Traverse City Cherry Festival. We volunteered at 5 events. And he was there at every single one of them, picking up trash from the parade route to serving people as they ate the cherry pie and the pie eating contest. So it was really cool to kind of show them give back. And at the end of it all, even our employees were just kind of like, that was so much fun. I want to do that again next year. And the whole time leading up to it, they're kind of hanging their heads and kind of getting a little upset about, I got to go do this on a Saturday. I got to go do this. It's Wednesday. It's hot. What am I doing? But they realized that bond that is formed by people out there doing good for other people. And it's very contagious, and the Cherry Festival, they were very grateful for our help, and they reached out with a bunch of things I didn't even know they did. And they're like, hey, we got this event coming up, this event, if you guys want to come out. And it's such a great feeling because, we had to pass background checks. We couldn't just be like, hey, we're showing up. Like, all of our people had to pass background checks. Some of our people didn't, and we use them in different ways. One guy, we're like, hey, since you didn't pass, how about you drive us all down there? They have like a little station where you can drop people off and pull in, pull out. I was like, you can drive us, and so we still found a way to include those people as well. So it was pretty amazing. And the meetings that we hold here aren't our meetings. We have, 3 of our staff members hold meetings, but they're not AA or NA. One of them is called the Spirit of Recovery, where they hunt for ghosts. Not really, but if you saw the flyer I made them, you would think so. It's about being spiritual. I think Samantha's seen it. She knows what I'm talking about. but it's about being spiritual and kind of digging into yourself that way. And another gentleman has started a kind of another spiritual meeting. It's called finding self or seeking self. And that is something that's pretty cool. There's a search for serenity meeting. That's actually today. There was a gamblers meeting, and it wasn't a gamblers anonymous meeting, but it was like a gamblers support group, which was great. And then the lady moved back to Florida. So we're still kind of looking for someone to kind of help with that, because that's kind of a huge thing. So it's kind of like anything that the community wants to do, we're open to it. And I tell them, if you want to start a meeting about drawing pictures, they're cool, like anything that can keep you sober and move you to the next level and keep you moving forward is what we're about. So we encourage everything. In fact, we're starting an art recovery class. And the first thing we're going to do the first group is going to be about making t-shirts. So we're going to have people come in, they can design their own t-shirts. I've gotten pretty good at it over the years. So it's something that I can kind of help them with, show them a little bit how to do it. And it could be something that, keeps them sober. And then every week we're going to have kind of a different theme to it. So painting, cameras. I don't know if Anna Marie will let me work in the podcast part of it, but I think that would be pretty dangerous, actually. But those are some of the things that we do here at the community center. And with the transportation, we use a recovery coach to drive people to and from treatment. And the thing that makes that so different, and I know like the state will love to put people on a bus, and I don't even know if it's the state that loves to do that. Some of the PIHPs around the state, it's like they just don't care. Like, I wouldn't want my kid getting on a bus. And if you really sit down and think about it, like imagine if, the governor, if Whitmer, if we put her in some rehab clothes, and it's nothing, I'm just using her as an example, put her in some rehab clothes, sent her to a bus station and made her wait 3 hours. And then like gave her something that made her really, really sick. And the drug dealers that are walking around there, because they are, would spot her in the 2 seconds, and they'd sit down, make friends, and be like, "Oh, girl, I got something for you." Now, what he gives her, we have no idea what it really is, and I would guess a lot of people are taken into the sex trafficking industry that way. So it's very unsafe. I don't know why people don't see that, who are making these choices to buy somebody a $40 bus ticket. It's just not safe. And when people are leaving treatment, hey, here's your bus ticket, and it stops at a gas station that's really a liquor store. And the guy's sitting there with $20 in his pocket because his family sent it to him to get something to eat on your way home. He's sitting there, just got out of treatment. Sometimes they only get 2 weeks in there. So then he's sitting there and he's like, well, dang, and he's just now starting to feel better and thinking, oh, you know what? I can get a little shooter. I can get a little bottle on the way home. And by the time I get there, no one will know. Well, then the next stop, he gets a little more. And that's how it goes. And then they want to blame him. They want to blame the treatment center. Oh, you guys didn't do a good enough job. And it's like, wait a minute, like, hold on. Like there's too much of this back and forth of like, this is what works, this is what not works, this is what, and then they just go with what doesn't work and just start blaming other people. And it's clear what's not working. It's like we should get those people home safe. And then the PIHP's contract, it says in there that, or the state's contract with the PIHP, that the PIHP is responsible if, Medicaid can't take them, which if you call DHHS, they'll tell you, we don't really take people to treatment, we take people to doctor appointments. But it says in there that they're responsible to get people from their front door to treatment, from treatment back to the front door. Not, hey, we'll get you to the bus stop and then you got to walk 28 miles. Like that's not what it says. It says front door to front door. And the Uber people, they don't care. We used to, I guess we kind of still do have a contract with Families Against Narcotics. Kate Kerr, when they kind of started their thing up here, she reached out and was like, hey, we got this Hope Night Handcuffs thing. We really want you to, help us out and drive for us, which we did for a while. And then it kind of fell off, I think, because they didn't understand why I wouldn't wait 2.5 hours for a guy, who was in his bedroom just waiting for his drug dealer to come. I was like, well, that's why I'm not going to wait. But with them, though, it was it was a bit different, taking people to and from treatment, but at least it's better than using a cab or a taxi, which they ended up doing one time. And I got a call from one of their directors. I don't remember who it was. And she's like, hey, actually it was a text. Did you get a call and say you couldn't take this person because you were sick? I said, no, never got a call, never got a text, nothing. Why? Well, apparently, I guess the Uber showed up to take the guy, and the guy was like, oh, no, man, I'm not going there. No, take me to Detroit. So they get this huge bill. The dude never even goes to treatment. And it's just like, wait a minute, what just happened? Why'd you use them? Oh, well, Corey said he was sick or something. So it was kind of interesting when I got that call. And I'm like, nope, never said that. Wasn't sick at all. So that's just not a safe way to get people there. And neither is Lyft, and a lot of times people will get the okay and the confirmation and they just never show up to pick them up. And then that leaves the treatment center waiting for someone who's not going to show up, and then they just kind of look at it like, oh, he didn't make it. I guess he didn't want it, and how does the PIHP kind of reflect on that? Do they look at them like, oh, well, let's mark them down as they didn't show up? Somebody call again, they get the fifth degree from them, depending on which PIHP they're calling. But just the ability to have a recovery coach in the front seat with them in the back seat, it's amazing. They don't even know what they're getting into, and I'm not a therapist. I'm not a counselor. I'm somebody that they owe nothing to. And I really don't owe them anything, so there's not this expectation of, oh, I better tell the truth to this guy or I better lie to this guy. It's just natural conversation that's had. And you build this nice relationship with them. And I still get messages today every time, somebody hits a milestone, a year or 2 years, they'll send me a message. Hey, remember me? I'm the one that did this or that. And remember, I got 2 years now. Thank you so much. And it's just amazing to get those messages and have that relationship with people that you're taking to treatment and to offer them hope, and I don't really tell my story to every single person, like word for word, but, I just kind of get what they're going through clearly and ask them if they have questions with what we're doing now. I haven't personally taken anybody probably in a couple months. There's a couple guys that do that for me. Well, a few people that do that for me now, but we have pamphlets that we've printed out and just had Justin make this up. It's just beautiful. I told him, I was like, give him some stuff that'll inspire them. And he's got quotes from Steve-O, Colin Farrell, Russell Brand, Eric Clapton, Alice Cooper, so just stuff that people can, and I was like, I don't know, man, if a lot of people will know Alice Cooper, Eric Clapton. I mean, they should, but their quotes are very powerful, and it just kind of shows our vision and just a little bit about the driver that's taken them and their story even. So just a little bit of inspiration on the way if they want to read that, on the way or when they get there. But our guys are like talking to them pretty much the whole time. And you drive somebody 3.5 hours and you get there and they're like, we're here already. Like, wow, that was the quickest trip I've ever had, and it's like, okay, well, that's because we were talking and we were working. And when they go in there, they're already having some kind of thoughts of, okay, I can do this. This guy did it, I did it, and I can do it. And it doesn't matter how many times they've been there or what drug they're using. It's kind of about finding purpose and setting some goals. And then when we take them home, it's even better, and we really get to feel them out. And we've discovered that, at least I've discovered that there are some key words and some key things, basically because of the stuff I used to say. If they get out of treatment and they're like, well, I'm just going to get a job. Once I start making some money, I can pay my bills and I'll be good. And then I go, oh, wow, like red flags start going off in my brain because that's what I used to say. So instead of saying, man, that's not going to work, don't do that. I never say that. I don't ever tell people what to do. I just say, I thought that once and then it didn't work out for me. Good luck, and don't ever stop giving up. If you slip, if you fall again, man, like, don't worry, reach out for help again, man. Like, don't burn your house down again. Like, you don't have to burn it all down. Like, you can really get back in it, and it's about what you do after that. So I kind of leave them with that. When I do hear like things that are just like red flags, it's like, okay, like, let's make sure this person knows how to get back in it and not to beat themselves up too much. It's not an overnight process. It takes time. very few people have just like, I'm just going to not do it and walk away. And then I kind of knew I shouldn't do this, but I questioned them. I'm like, did they really have a problem? Or, which, like I said, I shouldn't do. And I guess I don't do it that often, but that's some of our program with the recovery rides, the community center. We like to do community events. There's a beach volleyball game coming up this weekend that we're co-sponsoring with Addiction Treatment Services. That'll be fun. Burgers, food. It's right on the beach. It's supposed to be like 77 and sunny, so it should be a beautiful day. So like that's really fun, and we can really show the people that you can have fun, you can laugh, and there's some really good people in recovery. So it's a great place to be. Did you have a question, John?
Is there any questions? Anybody have questions? Well, I have to say,
I'll just add in there, Corey, I really appreciate your point about like they have a few days or a couple of weeks and then, they're just left at a bus stop and where do they go? Do they even have a home to go to? What's the next step really in their programming, really? And it seems like there's a lot going into crisis development, which we need that desperately too. But I think we have to start looking forward to residential type programs and places. I mean, you have some sober living, looks like homes, but even kind of across the gamut with mental health and so on and so forth. It's just a big gap.
anybody else have any questions or comments for Corey? I think what you're doing is,
Corey, I'm curious, what are the partnerships that you'd like to pursue to expand your outreach and efforts and impact, for that matter? Who would be some partners that would help you make that happen?
That is a good question. We've tried to reach out to the Rotary Club here in Traverse City. At the time when I was really young, I reached out to them and they had like a seed grant. I thought, man, this would be great. And they flat out told me, well, we don't do that for transportation. If you were opening like a women's recovery home or something, we would, but we're not going to help with transportation. And I was just like, oh, so I kind of gave up. My wife, though, she works for Addiction Treatment Services. She just graduated from Ferris State with her master's in social work. So I'm really, really proud of her. And she's in recovery too. And she's just an amazing woman. She really is. And she's the person that can make those connections happen, I think, because I'm too busy with, I don't know. That's what I call it. The work I do is, and she's like the one like behind the scenes really kind of fixing me and making things kind of happen and pointing me in the right direction. I sometimes will get this feeling of like, the world hates me. Nobody likes me. It's like, what are you talking about, man? Like you're talking to the wrong people. Talk to this guy, talk to this woman. So I don't know, she'd probably be better to answer that question. Yeah, but I'm open to working with pretty much everybody. There's a few people that would really kind of open the doors for different things. And when I say that, I'll talk about something that I brought to the table a couple of years ago, the homeless situation in Traverse City. I started thinking about it and I thought, man, I want to meet with Ryan Hannon, who was the director of Goodwill Inn at the time. And I was like, let's talk to him. And I got with Christina from Addiction Treatment Services, like, well, let's set up a meeting because I have something that just might work. And that it doesn't make sense how they're just giving people vouchers without, if they have a substance use disorder, if they have a problem, they should probably get some help first, because I know I couldn't hold a job. I couldn't drink a half gallon a day and keep a job. What's that? And if somebody was just giving me a house to stay in, I would just keep figuring out how to get money. And there was a Facebook post last night that a friend shared with me, and I probably put way too much on there than what I should, but normally I don't jump into that kind of stuff, but I kind of wanted to express my concerns. But with the population of people that are homeless because they have a substance use disorder, whether it's they drink themselves there, whether they, use themselves there, either way, they're there and they probably would like help, going through that hell every day. Like I said earlier, we weren't drinking or using because it was fun. We were trying to escape reality. I was trying to die. So these people, I would assume, kind of probably feel the same way sometimes. So if we could get them into treatment and not just give them 2 weeks, but give them 90 days, then from the 90 days, they go to sober living where they can live for a year. And there will be a program for them. Sure, you're going to get a job at some point, but right now you're going to volunteer in the community. You're going to go to the 217 recovery center or whatever, do whatever you need to do to be around recovery. You're going to hit your meetings. You're going to do these things and not worry about having a place to live. And after the year, then you get rewarded with a voucher. You've proved that you can live sober for a year and you had, 90 days in treatment. You're changing your life already. It's going to pop in their head, hey, maybe I can drink again, maybe I can use again. But you keep giving them a purpose, you keep giving them a reason not to use again, and they're going to remember that hell, and they're not going to want to go back to it. I don't want to go back to it. And then knock on wood, I'm not drinking today. That's the plan. And after a while, I honestly don't think about it every morning. There are days, I'd say more than not, where I wake up and I just thank God that I don't have to go through that hell again. But give them a reason, give them a purpose. And I said that, and I was told that'll never work. You got to house them first. And that's pretty much all I got out of, the Goodwill Inn and Ryan Hannon was that you've got to house them first. And then I realized, okay, that's their motto. That's their thing. House them first. I get it. But there was a guy that I ran across during the time that I worked for Addiction Treatment Services. I was just doing part-time stuff on the weekend and took him over to the Goodwill. I don't even know what it's called. The Goodwill. It's like the little apartment building behind Arby's in Traverse City, Carson Square or something. I took him over there and he told me that his apartment was there. I said, your apartment? He's like, yeah. I said, well, you were in jail for 90 days and you're doing 60 days in treatment. Like, what do you mean that's your apartment? He's like, yeah, I don't pay for it. They gave it to me for free. I said, what? And then he went on to tell me how he used to rent it out for the day for people, sex trafficking, sex industry, whatever you want to call it. He'd rent it to them. They would pay him to use it to make money that day. And then they would come back to him and buy the meth. So it's like all the money that they worked for that day or made or were forced to make, then they turned around right back and gave him back the money to buy more drugs, and I was just like, he was really proud of that business plan of his. And it made me sick to my stomach. And the fact that he wasn't even living there and like people were still using this place to do this, and it's just like, whoa. Like that really kind of made me think about the house them first motto. And there's a way to house them first. It's called treatment and sober living, that's housing them, but then it kind of occurs to me too, like, oh, but they're not in their program. They're not in their place. Maybe that has something to do with it. I have no idea. But I thought it was a pretty good little plan to kind of get people who want to get back on their feet. And that's the thing too. If somebody doesn't want it, it's kind of next to impossible. I know there's a lot of talk about the Pines here in Traverse City and the people out there, and they just talk about banning alcohol and stuff like that. And people are like, put them in treatment, don't put them in jail. And I'm like, well, like that's going to hold up beds for people who really do want it. Like I get what you're saying. These people need help. And I don't think these people, when they were 10 years old, if they were asked, what do you want to do when you grow up? Oh, I want to go live in the Pines and get drunk all day and use drugs. That wasn't their answer. So somewhere along the line, I think the mental health deteriorates so much that you can accept it. And then you realize, well, I can get pizza from the dumpster over here. I can get donuts from over here. It's not that bad. I can ask for some beer money or drug, whatever, and I can live. And they just become complacent. They accept it. And which, again, I think that's a sign of the mental illness. And when the city said they were going to ban alcohol out there, I thought, okay, well, are they doing this so that they can bring people in to give them a mental evaluation? You know, like, come with us, you're going to jail because you couldn't pay your ticket. Like, let's get you figured out. But then I was told no. So I thought, okay, well, I don't know why they're doing it then. Because are they going to ban meth and sex trafficking out there too? That was my kind of question, but it was all right. I didn't know if that was too much, Renee, but
No, I'm just curious, and as I guess I would just want to know more. But it sounds like you're doing more than traffic or transportation. And yeah, I can get your information from Suzanne. And I'd like to talk to you more about perhaps some partnerships that could be explored that might enhance your outreach efforts. And yeah, I just put that out there. I make no promises, but generally speaking, the best way to get money and support from Rotary is to attend their in-services and workshops. And I would start from there if I were you, just building those relationships. I'm very pleased to say that in my many years in Little Kalkaska and Antrim County, where I worked there, I wrote or co-wrote over $16 million in grants. And I'm here to tell you that that doesn't happen by just writing good grants. You have to be prepared to meet people and consider partnerships that enhance their work as well as yours. A mutual relationship can make that happen. Again, I just throw that out there. I would offer myself if you, someone from your organization would like to just have coffee one day, I would be very open to that conversation.
send my wife.
Okay. Whichever. I'm good.
Oh, she's great. No, yeah, we should do that though.
Thanks, Renee. That's awesome. Does anybody else have any questions or comments for Corey? I want to say, Corey, what you're doing is awesome, and your thoughts on purpose. I'm right there with you. If people don't have purpose, they're not going to want to keep going. You have to have purpose to have hope. And I don't know, it's and the same thing with transporting them, throwing them on a bus or in an Uber. They don't want to be in there by themselves. They need that handheld and someone there to talk to and encouraged. And it's, why would they want to be on a bus or by themselves or in an Uber by themselves? And half the time they're probably not even going to get there because they don't have that encouragement and that warm handoff that they need. And I know there are programs that just kind of throw them on a bus or in an Uber and a taxi. And I've always been, if it was my kid, I'd be like, no way. And then I'd be taking them up because I wouldn't.
So Corey, I have a question for you. The drivers that you have, do they receive training? Yes.
Train them. Yeah, I train them, and they do other different trainings. We do CPR, we do suicide prevention. Of course, they take all the confidentiality, like little courses and stuff like that.
So I guess, again, sometimes it's just, I don't want to belabor this, but sometimes it's just about how you reframe things. Are you providing transportation, or is the car providing a peer counseling environment? There really is a difference in the way that you frame that. Like, from my perspective, you have someone in the car. I have 3 sons. I can tell you that the only time I could get them to talk is when we went for a ride. They were strapped to a seatbelt and they couldn't escape. And we would spend an hour talking And it wasn't about the drive at all. It wasn't about the transportation. It wasn't about where we were going to or from. So from my perspective, I think you have a really interesting model of peer counseling on the fly, peer counseling behind the wheel kind of thing. And so if I were in a position of asking for funds, I would focus on the peer counseling side of that, which you're providing in a place that is 100% uninterrupted. There's no distraction, right? And you have somebody in a seatbelt ready to tell their story with somebody who is trained and ready to listen and preparing them. This is an important component, preparing them for the destination. It's not about getting to that destination. You've just provided peer counseling to somebody, preparing them for the destination. So it's not sitting at a bus stop. It's not somebody who's going to sell them something or try to get something from them. It's a peer-to-peer counselor. So again, I'm sorry, this is how my head works. Suzanne has known me for a while.
No,
I go in those kind of directions. But that's my first thought in this, is that you have a very unique peer-to-peer counseling model that happens to use a vehicle.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point, Renee. That's a great point.
That's an excellent point, an excellent avenue to pursue, because that is advocacy as well for the person. So to have that peer-to-peer counseling, that's huge.
Mm-hmm.
We
And
tried to tell the state that, and then the state said, no, we don't pay for that.
yeah, again, sometimes it's just simply about knowing someone. And there are, certainly with Up North Prevention and Catholic Human Services, and Donna with the health department, we all know that the state is looking for certain keywords or model programs that are out there. When you write for funding, they want you to write for something that works for them. That's the bottom line. You can do that, but what has to happen is you have to be prepared to translate and follow your funders' wishes. They're not going to fund something that's not right for them. I mean, you have to be realistic about that. There aren't people just dying to help to fund you. They want programs that fuel their mission, and that they can step forward to their boss or to their funders, because they receive funding from other sources as well, to say, we funded this because it fits our mission. So your mission needs to fit theirs. They aren't interested in fitting yours. It's just, if you know that right up front, that's the first thing you need to know to get money, is you need to give them something. And in return for that, you receive funding. But again, that is not the purpose for this conversation. And I don't want to hijack this, but I just really appreciate, and Suzanne would tell you, I haven't tuned into these very often, but when I saw a recovery that was fun and a little bit different, I was definitely piqued. My interest was piqued about that, looking for something different, because, yeah.
Well, anybody who knows Corey knows
SSDD, same shit, different day. We've seen that plenty of times, right? And this didn't sound like that. So I'm interested, and made it a point to participate because of that. You have that. You have that at 217. And yeah, that's what I would say about it. Again, If you're interested, I'm going to shut up now. If you're interested in hearing more, Suzanne's got my info.
Yeah, that's one thing about Corey is when you're with him, he's fun. I'll be at a fan meeting, he'll come in, I'm like stressed to the max trying to get everything hooked up and everything for our meeting, and he comes in with this fun attitude, and it's like, okay, I can do this. So he's got a really good attitude, and yeah, Corey, whatever, we're over in Kalkaska, but however we can help, if you have flyers that I can put out or any of your programs, I mean, I can put them out at the table when we do our farmers market, which is actually today. We can help, help this grow or, help get the word out. I think a lot of people, I mean, there's this false thought that recovery isn't supposed to be fun, that it's so serious. And how could anybody get through it if everything is just so serious and mundane? You have to be human and be able to have those human emotions and be able to laugh and that's part of life. I know one of the things with my son going through recovery, it's so many times he's gone through several different times. He's gone through programs and it's always the same thing. It's always the same mundane thing that he already knows. He could teach the class, and he's got to learn to live life and to make and have that purpose, find that purpose and be able to laugh and be able to enjoy life. Life's about living and enjoying. And that's what really sparked my interest in your program. So anybody go ahead.
I was gonna say it's really crazy because when I was working in Fort Smith, Arkansas, I was a program director. I did afternoon drive on a station to Fort Smith, and I also did afternoon drive on a station in Fayetteville. I had like 8 different hats. I was a community relations guy, promotions program director, and I was like 32, I think, when I took all that over. And like the other people that worked there were in their 60s. So they looked at me like, oh, this young guy is going to make us do stuff. And so I started learning things, and I was getting very frustrated at one point. And I called my grandmother, who was still alive at the time. And she told me that she had talked to God. And I thought, okay, grandma. And she's like, no, God told me that you're there to learn the skills that you're going to use for him one day. And she was always hounding me with, go work for a Christian radio station, go work for a Christian radio station. And I tell her, grandma, like, if I put my demo out to a Christian radio station, it's going to blow up his computer when he puts it in to listen to it. Like they're not going to hire me. And so I just thought my grandma was crazy, I'm like, okay, whatever. And I started looking at it different after I got out of treatment, after I started 217 recovery and all the things that I've started doing, like all the stuff that I learned when I was in Fort Smith, Arkansas. She was absolutely right. Like everything, the promotions, the programming, the how to work with people in the community and all those things, the website management, and like everything I learned there, she was absolutely spot on. So it kind of like makes me go, and realize that I'm good with not going back into radio. I'm good with this. This is my purpose. I don't know what I'm doing all the time, very rarely, but I can figure it out, and kind of having that mentality kind of helps my staff even. Are you guys familiar with something called surprise billing?
Mm-mm.
Oh, John looks like he might be. Surprise billing, like if you go to the emergency room and you have a problem, they're to bill your insurance company. Now, people on Medicaid, usually they're I'd say in the lower bottom of the income earners. And I recently just got off Medicaid, so yay for me. But they will, instead of billing Medicaid, because like say you go there and you broke your foot. Well, if I do this to your foot, and I'm really bad at analogies, so we'll just go with the foot thing. Let's just say I need to give you this kind of medication for your foot. If I give you the generic brand, Medicaid might pay $3. I can give you the real brand, and Medicaid won't pay for it, but I can charge you $300. I'll do that. And then we'll just play it out. And we lose $3, we lose $3, but chance to get $300 is great. And this is my understanding of how that works. And that's kind of what I was told. And so I should have just used the real example. I had gallbladder surgery and I had to keep going back over and over because there was some stuff wrong and still in there. And then I get a bill for $800. And what is this for? And I remember the hospital giving me recipients' rights. Hey, here's your rights. And on there, it said something about surprise billing. And I remember somebody telling me about it. So I thought, this definitely is a surprise bill. And no one said, hey, we're going to do this to you and it's going to be $800. Is that okay? Nobody said that to me. So I thought, okay, this is a surprise. So I go to the website that they tell me to on the form that they hand me, which is a website that doesn't even work. It's a bad link, which I call to tell them about. And they're like, oh, yeah, okay, thanks. I'm sure it's still a bad link today. So like if you look at it like, okay, if my grandma or my friend, whoever is going to this website, they're going to get very frustrated because it's not that easy to find from going to a website that doesn't work. And a lot of people would think, okay, well, I'm not paying it. I am paying it, whatever. Well, I ended up going through the process of it, and the insurance company pretty much handled it. But they told them, yeah, that's surprise billing, and that's illegal. The problem there is that there's no repercussions for the insurance company, for the ER, for doing that. If they got fined $10,000 every time they send someone a bill they shouldn't send a bill to, I don't think they would do it anymore. One of my guys here just got one in the mail, and he never even got the bill sent to his house. It was just like, hey, we're going to sue you now. And he's like, I don't understand what's going on here. So he finally gets a hold of his insurance company. They're trying to get 217 recovery now to pay for it. It's like, you should have been taking his money. And I'm like, I'll talk to the judge about it. Thanks. But anyway, the insurance company said, oh, they never even billed them. So they took this charge that probably was nothing, and they figured, oh, we'll just bill the person. And now they're trying to just rip it out of his paycheck, and they sent it to an address he lived at 12 years ago. And I don't know. That's something that, through experience of like just kind of going through life, that you can kind of help other people with. And then hopefully one day he'll be able to like kind of help somebody else with it. But if you guys ever hear of people getting bills from the hospital, especially when they're on Medicaid, they shouldn't be getting those. And that's just them going around the system to try to get extra money out of somebody that doesn't have any. So
Yeah.
it's a really bad, horrible job of explaining that. I apologize for that.
No, it's not right. That whole thing you were talking to about the Pines and what they're doing over there. I read that and I was like, what are they thinking? It makes no sense whatsoever. None. And I think
I don't know.
I think, the only way things are going to change is if we really start, and we've been doing it. We've been stepping up and trying to make it different and having our voices heard. But we got to keep doing it, and we have to be louder, and more of us have to come together to make changes within the system. Whether it's funding a program like yours or, sometimes sending people to jail or prison, for things that they really shouldn't be sent for. I mean, they do need help. Some people, you're right, maybe jail can save their life. But other times the system makes no sense at all for a lot of broken people. It just doesn't make any sense. So we just have to be, louder. Let's be louder. Let's really start making some changes. And I'm with you, Corey, wherever you need me.
And some people, and kind of how I said earlier about, living homeless and living in the Pines, and they just become accepting. Some people accept jail, like, oh, that's fine. I've had people tell me that they would rather just go back to jail because they know what to expect. They know what time their food is. They know what time it is. They know what's expected of them. This one kid, he had been pretty much in the system since he was 16 and he was like 24. And he's like, this scares me. He's like, what am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to go to this treatment center, then get out and then then what? What do I do then? I don't have a GED. I don't, what am I supposed to do? And he ended up sabotaging himself to where he would go back to jail, where he feels comfortable. And when I was an IOP years ago in Benton Harbor, there was a guy that got out and he was on the, what do they call that program? You're kind of on parole. I can't remember it, but he went there and he would come into the IOP just frustrated, talking about how he was disrespected by the house manager guy and over some cigarettes. And he said, I just want to go back to prison. Mm-hmm. And he did, and that's the crazy thought that most of us are like, why would you want to do that? But when you realize, okay, this isn't that bad, and there's a pecking order, there's a whole society of people in there. And I was talking to a guy a couple weeks ago, Ryan or whatever, and I was telling him, because so many people had told me about, like, even in the Pines, that there's a mayor out there, that they have their own community and their own pecking order. I've heard that from many people. Mm-hmm. And he's just like, nah, no, they don't. They don't have that. And I said, well, I don't know. And drugs are pretty bad out there. And he's like, that's not that bad. And I was like, okay, well, maybe because all the people I'm picking up, or the people we're talking to, have drug problem, that I just assume everybody does. But I'm told by those people that everybody does. But again, when I drink alcohol, I would have told you that everybody drinks alcohol, mm-hmm. which then I find out, no, they don't. So like, it could be one of those things where maybe I'm just hearing it from the people that I don't know. But we should, I don't know. It would be nice to investigate that. But yeah, there's no real clear-cut answer. But like you said, though, coming together to talk about it, not just posting stuff on Facebook and just blah, 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 and screw those people or let them die or throw them in jail, but have a real conversation with some people, with real people that could have some suggestions to help, like people that work for the city. Do they know about mental illness? Do they know about substance use disorder?
Do they care?
I don't know.
Do they really care?
Are those the people to even talk to? But yeah, well, we'll get there though. We just can't give up.
No, we can't. And I mean, when you think about it though, I mean, some of these people, they've been, there's one in particular that I know that was living in the Pines that went through so much trauma as a child. I mean, that was normal. That was the norm. And, and she's been through so much abuse and in programs a couple of times and can't trust anybody because all the things that have happened to her and they just take her and throw her in jail. And I mean, the whole system needs to be revamped. You can't take people and punish them for a disease that they have, if they're breaking the law in other sense, like stealing and stuff like that. I mean, because there's victims and, in that sense, I think we have to accept that, but just simple usage, simple, possession charges, people shouldn't be going to prison for, they need help. And like you say, Corey, I mean, it isn't a 2-week program or a 30-day program. It's intensive, fun rehab, they need, that's another thing, they need to revamp that system. It needs to be something that sparks their interest, that helps them, become alive again and have them realize that they're here for a purpose, and to do that. And then, like you say, give them a place to live, for another year, and it's got to be longer. It's got to, and I don't know, but we have to start making a difference. Anyways, I guess, yeah, we went a little over time, 10:02, so people are hopping off. Thanks, Corey, for being here.